nice to see everybody bright-eyed and bushy-tailed after an evening of festivities. We all got the sleep out of our eyes and rolled out of bed and made it in this morning. So we have an absolutely amazing lineup of main stage shows this morning. So thank you for being here for day 3 of the Great Lakes Floral Expo. If you have not had the opportunity, make sure to stop in and speak with the vendors that we have at the trade show. Make sure to get your cards punched and all of that to enter all the drawings and the winnings things that we have. Also, be sure the silent auction is only open until 2 o'clock today, so you want to make sure that you get those bids in early and bid often. All of that, those funds raised go for our foundation scholarship. So it's a great cause. Education. You can't go wrong with an investment in yourself. So. I have the absolute pleasure of introducing one of the most talented designers that I know this morning. The lovely Miss Jenny Thomasson is here, and she is sponsored by Teleflora. Let's welcome her to the stage. See, she's so amazing. I love this gal. So you are going to be absolutely blown away. The things that she was working on. Just look at this. I don't mean to steal your thunder, Jen, but come on. This is amazing. All right. Well, I'm going to quit talking, and I'm going to pass this over to Miss Jenny. I can't wait.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. One more time. Good morning, everyone. Woo! That's what I want to hear. Thank you all so much, first and foremost, for putting your butts in those seats and coming here this morning. Nobody can do it for you, right? You're the only ones that can do it for yourself. So thank you for coming to enjoy the presentation. And I will let you know right off the bat that I love questions. So if anyone has any questions, just shout it out. Because how many questions is too many questions? Well, you asked the first question, so you get what I'm going to make here in a second, but thank you. There's not ever too many questions, right? If you're thinking it, someone else was probably just thinking that same question, right? So I love questions. It becomes an interactive experience, and we all learn from each other, I think. So I want to say thank you to the association for having me. I'm so glad to be on this stage. I also want to say thank you to Teleflora. They are my sponsor, and I wouldn't be able to be here without their continued support. So I do want to tell you a little bit about my Teleflora journey of how I was able to be on this stage. I know a lot of people ask me, and they say, well, how did you get to do that? I really want to do that. Because there's a lot of really passionate people in this room, and there's also a lot of really passionate people that like to teach. And so my journey to get up here was actually, I was approached by a really lovely lady that I looked up to, Miss Marie Ackerman. Does anybody in here know Marie Ackerman? Yes, she was 1 in a million. She approached me and she said, Jenny, you need to put in for main stage at AIFD. And I was like, what? No, I'm just a unit president for Teleflora. I just help programs get put together. I just manage budgets. Like, I can't go up on that stage. And she was like, you really need to do it. Just put in for a program. And I was like, okay, well, how about I do a wedding program? And she goes, no. Everyone does a wedding program. I was like, okay, fine. So I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I presented a plant program. And this was almost 10 years ago, before plants became like the big thing, right? Very modern plants. And they accepted it. They really liked what I was putting together. And I went on the main stage. I did a plant program, and I had the time of my life. And I think that it showed, because after that, Teleflora approached me and said, will you be an education specialist? Duh. Absolutely, I will do that. And that has been able to take me kind of all over the world, all over North America. I've been able to go to China, Mexico, Canada, really just by the love of flowers. And I think that's always fascinating, that I'm able to do all of this by the love of flowers. I started my own flower shop back in St. Louis when I was 23 years old, and I ran that shop for 15 years. From the ground up, I started this shop. And we soon became like one of the most sought-after wedding shops in St. Louis. So through that time at that shop, I've really learned different policies and procedures that work for weddings. So I'm going to talk you guys through on the program today on how you can make money doing this and how you properly price your weddings. Because I think we, like designers, just like to make really pretty things, but we don't know how much they are, right? So for the program today, I'm going to show you each arrangement that I've made. I have a spreadsheet. And at the end of the program, there's going to be a QR code that you guys can take a picture of, and it's going to take you directly to my website, where only the people in this room with that QR code are going to be able to look at the whole presentation. All the forms I'm going to show you, all the spreadsheets that I'm going to show you, so you can really use it as a tool to make some money. Sound good? I love that. All right, and my dear who asked the first question, what's your name? Jasmine. Jasmine, where are you from? Nice. All right, Miss Jasmine, you get to come up and grab this bouquet, my dear. You're welcome. So you guys watch me make that hand-tied bouquet. There's only a few bouquets that are going to be here today that I'm going to show you that are going to be hand-tied bouquets. A lot of them are armature bouquets because I feel that in order to promote really current trends, ooh, I broke the rubber band. Okay. I'm going to hand it to you. In order to promote really current trends on the commercial side of business, we have to promote the artistry first. So I'm going to show you a lot of really creative artistic things. You can.
So I'm just starting my journey in spiral hand bouquets. Mm-hmm. What is your best advice for preventing hand cramps? Anyone?
Well, practice and make fast.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Make fast.
Just practice. Yeah, you'll get it for sure. Thank you. Thank you, Jasmine. Thanks for the question. All right, so who wants to make more money with your wedding business? Yes, everyone? Fantastic. What does that mean to you? Does it mean profit? Does it mean customers? Does it mean financial freedom? Everyone has to kind of decide what that is. My objective to goal is today to show you ways that you can do that. I think if you leave this room with one thing that you can kind of put in your back pocket, it was worth your trip to sit here today. So first things first, consultation. At my flower shop in St. Louis, we had a devoted consultation space, 100% devoted. It was about 800 square feet, and we had it designed seasonally. We would change things out. We would put in new stands from companies. Accent Decor is one of them for sure. UCI is also another. We would change. It's always in silk, but it's big, beautiful things that people are talking about. When the moon gates were popular, the moon gate went up in there. When the different height tables were popular, those went up in there. Suspendeds went up in there. We constantly changed out our consultation room because our brides would come in for the initial consultation, which we would spend a good 1 to 2 hours with them, and then they would come back in for their contract sign, and then again a month before. We were going beyond professional at this point. And when they came in, if that room was the same in the matter of a year, they're probably going to think, they're not on top of it. But if that room was changing and they saw that room a different way and it was new and fresh, I think they really had that thing in the back of their mind that these people are on their game. So having a devoted consultation space is very, very important. Then proposal services. There is details. I know the details girls are here, and they didn't even ask me to do it, but details is a beautiful proposal service that you can use. There's also Curate. That's a beautiful proposal service that really, again, goes beyond professional. It just shows those brides that I'm really looking at something that's just for me. I went to a conference recently, and I met with a man who was talking about virtual reality 3D walkthroughs that was built on the underground of like gaming. I was like, what? And so I talked to him about it. Now, we are talking high dollar, but there's also a virtual reality way that you can have the clients walk through an event if you're interested. So this was our consultation space in St. Louis. This was a side table that we had elevated with a tall centerpiece and a hanging one, different linens. That was the example of a moon gate with different vases and vessels and tall centerpiece. That was an example of a backdrop like what you see here. But again, these are all in silk. But just so the brides can come in and like, check it out. Is this cool? Is this not cool? Do I love it? And then that was our consultation table. The TV up on the wall, we could put directly into our computer. So as we're searching or we're pulling up their Pinterest page, it's immediately on that computer. As we're talking about a blue anemone, I can type blue anemone. It's immediately up there on that screen. And we have a very interactive consultation experience. Our close rate was fairly high, I think because they saw that all these things were very important to us. We were being, again, beyond professional in this way. This was our consultation form. You guys can take the picture of the QR code like I mentioned at the end of the program. You can kind of look through here. Maybe there's things on here that you're not offering on your consultation forms. Maybe you can take a little cups of tidbits away from that. And it goes page by page. There's bride, bridesmaid, groom, groomsmen, ring bearers, fathers. We go into ceremony, we go into reception, and then we go into setup and delivery fee. And we talk about the Pinterest page. I know a lot of people get their brides or grooms, or brides and brides, or grooms and grooms. They bring in their Pinterest page and they say, this is exactly what I want. And I would encourage you to not make exactly what they want. They want something else. They think that's what they want, but they really want it to be unique to them. So when you're putting together a proposal, you could say, I really love this picture that you sent me, and I put this on the proposal sheet, and it's this and this and this and this, but I think because of where you are and what the guys are wearing, what the girls are wearing, it would be really great if we added this little touch. Just think about a way that you can add just that little extra touch that's just specifically for them. And then we go into the contract, and I will say our contract was based on Missouri law, and every state is different. So definitely don't take this contract verbatim and type it out. But there's some really good things that we learned by building this contract. There's a reason that everything is in this contract. One thing happened that was wrong, we're like, adding it to the contract. This thing, adding it to the contract. Like, there's a reason some things are in there. But we always had people sign their contracts. And there's different clauses in there. How much is a deposit? How much is due at the initial? How much is due a month before? When can you cancel things? How much do you get back as it gets closer to the date? So there's some good tidbits in there. You guys will be able to look through that and read if you're interested. It's fairly thorough. And then this was one of the largest weddings that we did. We were about 8 years in business at this point. And I don't think it's the largest wedding they do now. I no longer am there in St. Louis. But at that point, it was, I think this wedding was like $23,000 in flowers. And I remember thinking, that's amazing. Like, how can you do that? I was so excited, $23,000 in flowers. And then we have an event coming up here at the end of this month that's $500,000 in flowers. So it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I did really partner with this photographer on this, and he did some incredible shots of this room. And that was kind of a highlight of my career at that point in St. Louis, being able to do a wedding of kind of that magnitude. So then we're going to get into the bouquets that I'm going to show you guys today. And this is going to be the example of the spreadsheets that you're going to see. I'm going to start with something fairly simple. And the pricing on here is our pricing in Dallas, Texas. So now I've moved over to Dallas, and we are very happy about our pricing. So most people do fresh 3.5 times as a markup. We do 4 times. So that's what you're going to see per stem price, extended price. That's going to be our, number of stems per stem. We're 4-time markup on that. And you can see per stem price, like our antique green hydrangea are $13 a stem. Thank you. If your antique green hydrangea are not $13 a stem, then you get to modify that and kind of chisel that one down. So you can see number of stems, per stem price, extended price of what those flowers cost, subtotal, and then we add our labor on top of that. Our labor added onto this is 20%. But if you say the 4-time markup includes my labor, then you would kind of omit that. Yes, ma'am? How often do we change our prices? Constantly. Constantly. Yep, absolutely. We have all our Price per stem isn't a program at our business, and as the buyer is purchasing things, modifying and keeping their eye on it, for sure. Yeah. Things that we get more frequently, our prices are a little bit more generous. Things that we don't get as frequently, like there's some Nerine lilies coming up, we just don't get them as frequently. We don't really have a great consistent supplier for that, so that price on that stem is going to be fairly increased. But for this bouquet here at our pricing, at our shop, is $206.40 for this hand-tied. I will say that we do price our roses at $5 a stem. And I know that that might be high for a lot of individuals, but we were talking the other night, my fiance and we were like, if you're not pricing at $5 a stem, you're probably leaving money on the table. So maybe consider raising the rose prices. Yes, ma'am. No. You'll notice in a lot of my stuff, I don't use a lot of foliage. And I really think that that's the trend that we're seeing moving forward. I don't think we're seeing this abundance of eucalyptus and greenery. We're seeing a lot of color is coming in and not a lot of greens. So yeah, I just have the greens from the roses themselves. And this is all just a spiral hand-tied bouquet. If I'm going to do a hand-tied bouquet, that's what I'm going to do. Absolutely a spiral technique like what I did here in the beginning. So really easy to hold and grab. I can really cinch down on these stems nice and tight because they're all going the same direction. So I'm not going to damage anything that may be a little too fragile. All right, so then our next one is going to be a multi-variety bouquet. So simpler variety is going to be less expensive. And then more variety is always going to be more expensive. We've just got more stems in there, different prices, but beautiful color palette, right? And a different style altogether. This is a little bit more old-fashioned, I would say, but people would also say cascades are old-fashioned, but they're coming back. People love them. There's a video that I have on my Instagram, and it's a cascade video, and it's almost 500,000 views, which I think is crazy, but it's showing me that people are invested. They really want to know how they can do these things. This is a spiral hand-tied bouquet, so there's nothing in here that's going to achieve that spiral other than just the stems themselves. The cymbidiums are wired in because I pulled the stem apart, but just a beautiful drop. This color palette, though, I will say, we can't keep toffee roses in the shop. Who's having problems getting toffee roses? Like everyone. Yes, I see it. Toffee roses are still very, very popular, but this one is, I think, is staying for a little bit. The bold colors are coming in, the bright colors are coming in, but this really subdued palette, I think, really has still some longevity. And then a low centerpiece. So this is kind of on the simpler end of centerpieces, just like I did with the bouquet, simpler bouquet, and then a little bit more variety. This is a simpler centerpiece. So there's a beautiful brass bowl that the centerpiece is in, and the brass bowl comes from Teleflora. It's got like a hammered effect to it. It holds water remarkably well. I did use some floral foam in this centerpiece. Thank you, my dear. Thank you. I did use some floral foam in the centerpiece, and I used a whole bunch of roses, a couple of hydrangea, and I'm in love with tumbleweeds right now, just because it has some great texture, but very, very simple. So this one here is 201 to be exact. 2 white hydrangeas, 25 roses, a little bit of the tumbleweed, and the piece of floral foam with the bowl. Thank you, right there on there. That's great. And then the tall centerpiece, so then we're going to something a little bit more variety. This one comes out at $606 with the stand. Thank you. So the stand is from Accent Decor. Perfect. Aren't they great? They're so wonderful. I appreciate it. The stand is from Accent Decor, and in this design, I also used floral foam. So there's 4 bricks of floral foam in this design. It's a loamy tray, but a shallow one. It's clear. You could use a white. You could spray the outside gold if you wanted it to really just blend into the base of the container. There's a hole at the bottom of this stand. So in order to not have the guests look up and see through that hole and see the bottom of that loamy, I went ahead and put one of the Fatsia japonica leaves just on top of that hole, and then they just placed this on top. So just thinking about a little bit mechanics as you're kind of going along. Your guests are going to sit there and they're going to stare and they're going to stare because after a while they get sick of talking to the people next to them. No, I mean, that's true, they really do. But just like this low centerpiece, I mean, even though it's foam, everything's covered all the way down. I did not tape anything to that dish. You can't look down and see a little piece of green tape to it. This one is taped, but it's on top of the stand and it has the leaves underneath. Again, 4 bricks. Everything's done in groupings for this tall design. Grouping is very impactful. Has a little bit more of like a modern feel to it. So you see that big grouping of snapdragons, that big grouping of calla lilies, the big grouping of tulips off to the side. But white is always and forever going to be in fashion. But again, I see it going a little bolder. I see more color, I see a little bit more pop. So now I want to talk about a hydration chamber, because I think this is fascinating. I first saw this idea when I was in China, and I thought, there's no way. There's absolutely no way that can work. It totally works. So you can use something that's as big as this, which I love to use because I can put a lot of material in here, or you can use something like the little small ones that are like the shoebox size. But this part of it is very important, this part where there's a lid to it. So what I can do is, there's a little bit of water in the bottom, but there's some bubble wrap, so it keeps my flowers up out of the water. And spraying this with just plain water from a water bottle, and then being able to take my body flowers, my bouquets, my corsages, even some other accent flowers. Cake flowers would be really good for that. But you can make these things days in advance, spray them with water, put the lid on top of it, and pop it right into your cooler. It will last. They're not in water. There's nothing at all. There's no crowning glory. There's no finishing touch. Those are more of a topical sealant. So as soon as you spray that on top of your flowers, it does what it's supposed to do. It seals the top of the flower. So at that point, you're not able to put water and have it go through that sealing, because that was the nature of the material of the product. When you do something like this with the hydration chamber, you're just using water. Use water every single day if you want. You can open it back up, but you'll find that you won't need to because it retains the moisture. And then when you take out your material to deliver, then at that point, that's when you do your topical sealant. That's when you do your crowning glory or your finishing touch. So these grape muscari have not seen water in 2 days. And I literally just took them out of the vase and dropped them in here. And this hasn't even been in a cooler. This has just been in the back worm. But isn't that crazy? And that's grape muscari. We know how delicate this flower is. Thank you. This boutonniere was made yesterday. Again, no cooler. This just sat in this hydration chamber in the back workroom, which was warmer than this room, I think, yesterday at some point. This corsage also made yesterday. This halo also made yesterday. So the hydration chamber is great. It's going to help you guys for your productivity. You do not have to make your corsages and boutonnieres the day before the event when you have a million things to do. You really don't even have to make them 2 days before. You could make your corsages and boutonnieres midweek. And think about this. If it works for this, will it work for your bouquets? Not in this bin. Hi. Not in this bin, but with a plastic bag. So spray it with water and put a plastic bag over your bouquets. You could make them days in advance. Okay? Any questions on the hydration chamber? Yes, ma'am. You don't even have to use bubble wrap. I just use bubble wrap because that's what was in the back workroom. I mean, I'm being honest with you. I'm just grabbing things. As florists, we just grab things we can use, right? You could use paper towels or you could use facial tissue. But if you use those, no lotion and no fragrance. They have to be like the basic of the basic of the basic. But you can put them on the bottom, and then if you want to spray and then put them on top and then spray that as well, it's only going to help with the the moisture, the hydration. What it does is the hydration chamber, it forces these flowers, now they're not drinking from their stem, but they're drinking from the heads, right? All those little cells are open and they're forced to hydrate. And so they almost come out of here more rigid than when they would go in. Yeah, I had to share. Cool? Cool? All right. This is my other thing. We found out, just like things get put on the contract because something went wrong. Yeah. That's a great question. Are you using a spray bottle or are you pouring small amounts? I didn't have a spray bottle in the back room. So I had a bucket with water, just like the bubble wrap, I used what I had. Bucket with water, and I literally just went like this. Right? Just to get the water, that's all we need to do. We don't have to be all fancy about it, right? But really, really good question. Okay, so anyway, this comes up because there was a day that I was delivering, and I was walking down to give the bouquets to the bride and the bridesmaid, and they were in vases, and I was walking down steps. Yes, I know. See, I know. I was walking down steps and I slipped. The bouquets were fine, but the vases hit the ground and one broke in my hand. And I thought, never again am I delivering in glass. Does anybody here deliver in glass? Oh, sorry. Okay, don't do that. Don't do that. So this is a great way to do this. It's sustainable. It's marketing, believe it or not. And they really know that you care. You're going beyond professional again. So this is just an old rose box. And I have our branded tissue paper on the top and cellophane on top of that. And then with a knife, a sharp knife, I cut little square holes that my bouquets can literally drop down into. What's inside these holes is a large gallon freezer bag. Cut off the zipper top and then put that freezer bag inside and you staple all the way around. And then you can add water into all of those bags. So when you go and deliver the bouquets to the bride in the bridal room, you bring this whole box. You walk it right into their room. You set it right down. If you want to enable more hydration, we do this. We actually will spray the bouquets down the morning of, cover this whole thing in another layer of cellophane, put it in the cooler. Everything gets super, super crisp. And then when we take that out of the cooler, we leave that top cellophane on until we get to the bridal room, until we show the bride her bouquet. Then we would take the cellophane off, and she's the first one. Oh, they love it. And then this box can go with them in their party bus. There's no glass. The bouquets aren't rolling around. They get to stay in the water. We even will provide them with a clean white towel that we'll pin to the side. So when they take out their bouquet and it's dripping, they have something that they can take the little water droplets off with so they don't get spots on their dresses. And then we also give them a spray bottle. And we tell them to keep the spray bottle in their beverage cooler. So then the water is nice and cold and it's crisp. And so somebody's in charge of putting the bouquets back in the boxes and spraying the top of them down again. Our spray bottle has our sticker on it. So even if the bridesmaid didn't know that it came from our shop, she's now seen our name on the box all day. She's seen our name on the spray bottle. And again, we're going that extra step. It doesn't cost us that much more, but they know that they've completely been taken care of. Any questions on the bouquet box? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Look how easy, too, see? Woo! She's got 4 bouquets at once. And some of those bigger boxes, they work really well. But if you put too many bouquets in the bouquet box, I will say, because each bag has water, you have to be careful because it can kind of weigh it down. But you just start to learn how long to cut the stems, how much to fill the bag, all those things. All right, so ceremony structure. That's this beautiful thing that you guys see back here. Thank you. Yeah, so easy. So the stands are from Accent Decor. And thank you, my dear. And we did chicken wire. Underneath the chicken wire, though, I purchased camo netting. Does anybody know what camo netting is? Oh, okay. Yeah. So camo netting is something that has a really natural kind of color to it, and you can pick all kinds of colors to purchase camo netting. The camo netting that I purchased for this, I believe cost was like $16 or something like that. And I have to give all the props on the camo netting idea to my fiance over there, sitting, all humble. Thank you, sir. We use it on structures and backdrops, so you really don't see what's behind it. So I put camo netting on the structure itself so you didn't see that gold kind of shine through, because there is no foam on this at all. Everything is free stemmed in, and the roses are water tubed and then also free stemmed in. So what we have in here is the camo netting, chicken wire wrapped around, and then Ming fern. So that's two different dyed colors of Ming fern, the gray patina and then that reddish brown. A little bit of curly willow just to give us some motion and some interest. One of our principles and elements is line, so that was really important. So your eye kind of works all the way through it. And then having these double deep and the top and the back, they kind of flow into each other. There's like this beautiful wave that's happening. Can you see that? And I have to say thank you to my helpers on this. They were so wonderful, and they were up there, and they did a lot of great work. So thank you so much for that, you guys. For the arbor rental, I have $150 on that. And some people would argue you don't really need to charge the $150. But I say that you need to charge at least what you purchased it for, because you're going to make money every single time that you rent that. There's a candelabra that we purchased in St. Louis, and I don't know how much money we've made on it, but it has been a game changer for us. We must have rented this candelabra. If I were to say 25 times, that's probably not enough. So imagine if you rented this 25 times, and every time you got $150 on that. So this one completely done is $1,242. But I think that's really a great look for a ceremony. And it's a punchy color. It's different than what we've been seeing. And it's definitely a different style and aesthetic. Thank you. All right, so then we have our centerpiece. So this was my take on collections, how collections have been so popular for so long. Actually, I'm going to go over here because we have that other one, right? Yeah. Collections have been so popular for so long. So I was going with just, again, a bright, punchy color. And these are bamboo vases from Teleflora. I kept them in their natural state for this small one, which is just the monobotanic mass Cresspedia, which is very fun. And then also in the natural state for the medium one, a little bit of Cresspedia and our Solidago. The fun thing with this is there's some angles that are happening. You can take your Cresspedia stem, cut it at a really sharp angle, and then you can actually pierce through that head if you want a little bit of geometry rather than just sticking straight up. And then for this one, I used my power tool and drilled some holes in it and then made a web so I could bring all of my other interesting material in, kind of weaving it all through. Definitely a different take on what a collection centerpiece could be for a table. And then this one here. Isn't that beautiful? You guys, it's crazy. It's just 3 vases. Like, that's amazing to me. To create this beautiful armature, it's just 3 vases. So they're the glass cubes from Teleflora, and these are really good. They're really thick. There's a lot of substance to them. But how this works is I've made a kind of stands or claws that go onto the top of these vases. You saw it took 2 girls to come out here to carry this, because if we lift from the top here, these were made in such a way that they literally will come off of that vase. So they're reusable, 100%. You could make these, you could build something like this, and then you could take them off, use your vases for another event, and then you could use these again. So once you take the time to build the armature base that these are on, put them in your storage, and you can kind of bring them back. But I wanted to show you, I was in the back, and somebody said, well, how did you, she literally was like, how, and I was like, I know, I thought about it in the elevator on the way down today, that I need to show how to do this. So it is 8 pieces of wire and some bind wire. That is absolutely it. So 16 wires holds that entire armature up above those 3 vases. It's like magic, like really. So I have my 8 wires, and I have my bind wire, and I'll go ahead and pass this around so you guys can see it a little bit closer. But I wrap every single one of these wires completely in this bind wire. If you get up close, you'll see every single one is wrapped. And then this is the bottom, which is woven. That's what goes on top of the vase. So you weave it until it's the diameter of the opening of that vase. And then once you get to that, then these clamp around. And you keep weaving. And it holds that whole thing. It cinches it right down onto the top of that vase. These, because they're wrapped all the way up, you can use these to help support your material. So the material that I used in this, initially, before anything, was this beautiful dogwood branch. And this came from my friend Helen Miller. She said, oh, I had a great ice storm. Not really great, she was really sad. But she was really sad. But it was great because she gave me some branches. But this is a beautiful dogwood branch. She said, can you use it? And I said, can I? I would love to use it. That would be fantastic. And so I just laid those in horizontally and used those wire arms of the claw that came up to create this beautiful base before I added any flowers whatsoever. And you can get up close and you can kind of see like where I've wound it around. And then there's a couple pieces of bark that are in here just to achieve some good depth of color, really interesting texture. And then the Cymbidium orchids are water tubed, but they're the only thing that is water tubed in here. Everything else is stemmed straight down into my vase. A little bit of the line created by the elegance of the lily grass. But I think really a substantial piece for just 3 glass vases, right? Thank you. So I wanted to see 3-inch water tubes, 9, Cymbidium bloobs, lily grass, green trick, pink lizzie, dogwood branches, see, gift from Helen Miller, smiley face. Bark pieces, 18 gauge wire, brown bind wire, for a total, with my labor, was $728. So it is a pricey piece for a table, but I think it looks completely different. Someone that has the budget for that would see that and say, absolutely, I'll pay that. Do you need the anthuriums in there? No, you could save some money. Do you need the cymbidiums in there? No. Do you need the phalaenopsis in there? No. I mean, there's ways to kind of pull it apart and maybe bring it halfway down, but really impactful, I think. Thank you. Woo, 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 woo. I love that. All right, so then, thank you. This is another centerpiece. So this is a fairly done style right now, right? We see this a lot. I didn't want to use foam in this, but I wanted to use this bowl. Again, that's that brass bowl from Teleflora. I just love the look of it. I love the color. And I didn't want to just use water. I wanted to kind of play with it a little bit and say, what else could I use as my armature? Because as you can tell, I love the armature things. And I was like, well, maybe I should use a Kenza. Well, no, I don't want to use a Kenza because this will probably go on auction and I'll never get the Kenza back. And so I was like, well, why can't I just make my own Kenza? And so I did. I took a really, really thick wire. I don't even know what gauge it was, but it was massively thick. And I bent it into these like kind of swoopy ends. And I made a whole bunch of them. And then I used Gorilla Glue. And I Gorilla Glued those to the inside of the base of this bowl and let it sit. And literally, that's what's holding all of this together. And it is so sturdy. Because it's Gorilla Glued, I'm never going to be able to take it out, but I could still use that. I've already got my armature built inside that can hold kind of a really elegant, loose, flowy design. So whoever gets this will have to take it apart and take it home and look and see what the Kenza, the homemade Kenza is made of. This one, price-wise, this comes to $264 for the whole total. The brass bowl from Teleflora and the homemade Kenza. So I don't see this style going away anytime soon. I will say that. Again, bright, punchy colors, but this really beautiful, elegant flow and line, people are still really, really drawn to. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so then this one here, I love these colors. I love this rose, this gorgeous, big, beautiful rose, this, the coral one there. Isn't that great? I wrote it down in my book, so if anybody's interested, I'm going to head over to our booth over there, the Meraki booth, and I'll get out my book and I'll share the varieties of this with you. But I love the colors in this. I think they're just stunning, and I don't think it's just for fall. I think this is definitely all year around. Again, the brass bowl from Teleflora, and then what I used for my armature on this was my beloved tumbleweed. So that is what starts everything in here. That's holding all of these flowers together. And I'm lucky because I'm in Texas, so I can go and find these little guys. But the tumbleweed was a great armature and a great base for that centerpiece. It's really fantastic with those nice golden yellow colors that kind of come up from the top. It brightens up that whole centerpiece. Otherwise, I think it would have just been a little too dull.
Did you make the grid itself out of the tumbleweed?
The tumbleweed itself is a grid.
Okay, so did you do anything to manipulate?
Nope. Nope. Just the tumbleweed in itself has all of these nooks and crannies that the stems just kind of go into, and they hold everything. But I will warn you, tumbleweed has thorns, and I did not know that until I was using it last year. And I was in my studio and promptly put on my shoes and added some gloves. So that tan rose that's in there is Moab. Then nope, that's not the right one, sorry. That was the bouquet. Here we go. Yep, I don't have that rose name on here. Is it Dark Expression? Okay, it's Dark Expression. Thank you. The corally one. Yeah, it's really beautiful. I love that. So this one, that centerpiece there, I have $300 for that one with the rental of that vase. So then for our bouquet, this one has the tan rose Moab in it. For the bouquet, this is the demo that I want to do for you guys. So this would be a great time if anybody has any questions, because it's going to take me a little minute to make this. But this was the design that I told you that people were asking about, that I made and has been watched over 500,000 times. So I thought it would be really important to show you. Okay, thank you. She just said 11:15 is my time. Is that right? Oh, shoot. Shoot, I have so much more to show you, you guys. What? Bang, 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 bang. I'm sorry. I get so excited. Okay. Well, then maybe I won't make this whole thing. Maybe I'll make it later at the booth, and whoever's interested can come by and see it. So the reason that this bouquet came to be was I was going to make a video for my social media, and I was going to make a cascade, but I didn't have any holders at the shop, and I did not want to go to the wholesaler. I was like, I don't want to do it. Oh, I just want to stay here and create. I was like, what can I do? I was like, what if I just made a moss ball? That seems really simple. We use those all the time. And it's water, and there's probably just as much water in that moss ball as there is in the bouquet holder. And so I did. And I was like, I think it's going to work. I feel like it's going to work. There's confidence in me. So I wired the ones that were going to be upside down like you would for a bouquet holder, right? Because that's how you would put them in there. So I wired those, and I pulled that up into the moss ball where I know that's where the stem's hitting moisture, right? And then, okay, well, that'll work. I'll stitch that in there. that seems good. And okay, well, first stem worked. And then, all right, well, I'll keep going. And then, okay, well, second stem worked. And I just kept building this bouquet, and I was fascinated. By the time I was done, I was like, oh my gosh, that completely worked. Okay, well, I'm gonna leave it outside of water. I'm gonna leave it outside of the cooler. I'm not gonna put it in water. I'm not gonna spray it. I'm really gonna test this. I'm gonna see if this really does work. And I did. I left it in the workroom. I did not put it in water, did not spray it, did not put it in a cooler. Came back the next day. Was it looking like it sat out of the cooler for an afternoon or a day? Well, yeah, it was a little soft. But did it hold up? It did. I was like, okay, well, if I can do that, and then I can put it in the cooler, and I can treat it like I would treat any other bouquet, I know this is gonna work. And so I tried it, and it totally did. But look at it. Isn't that crazy? It's totally staying. Thank you. So now I need to build the bouquet portion. So then I just started building through the moss and making a spiral hand-tied bouquet underneath that moss where I could hold it in my hand. And keep building as you're going up to get the shape that you naturally would from a cascade bouquet. And then once you're done and you've got all that in there, then you just tie your stems off like you normally would if you're just making a spiral bouquet, and then cut them and then wrap it. Isn't that crazy? So do you like my beautiful bouquet? I'm going to finish it, I promise. But I've got so much else to show you guys that I do not want to hold you up. So is that okay? Yep. Okay, sounds good. All right, let's go. So then this one's fun. Thank you. That'd be great. Thank you. So this is also built on an armature. This armature is built on a base of white sprayed bamboo sticks and some clear lucite rods, and then really minimalistic floral with a lot of transparency to it. So we've got Cresspedia anthurium, and our roses are ranunculus. Really beautiful soft tones with that punchy green. And this one comes up to, let's see, this one is $383. I think worth it, for sure. Yeah. We're gonna, yep, as Jerome said, we're gonna burn. Now they're gonna walk around, you guys, so you can see these up close and personal, and feel free to stop them and snap some shots if you want to. Thank you. This one is another really modern base bouquet. So I built this with 18-gauge wire and some bind wire, and cut pieces of green moss squares. One of my wonderful volunteers made this, so I thank you so much. Yes, I know. And then we have a beautiful line. Everything on here is cold adhesive. And then she strung 2 garlands of hyacinth blooms for me and strung those right onto aluminum wire, so we can really elongate that beautiful cascade line and just drape that right down the center. I would adhere that, but I wanted to show you guys with and without. Oh. So this one, very modern, but this one is $346 for this bouquet. Fantastic. I made a lot of these bases at home and then shipped them here. You can imagine the bubble wrap and the tissue that it took for them to get here without being damaged. But this one is one of my favorites. Again, the base is made with 18-gauge wire, and there is little angel wings, or skeleton wings. that are on the back, skeleton leaves, excuse me, yes, that are on the back of those. And then underneath that are these big, beautiful dried lotus leaves that I found on a trip to Belgium that I purchased years ago. And I was like, I have to have these. How many of us do that? I have to have this. Like, why do we need this? We don't need it. We're just inspired by it. So I haven't used it, and then I thought, I'm going to use it in this. And it was really perfect. A little bit of the skeleton leaves on the outside just to give me some repetition. And then lots of depth and layering with the ranunculus, the hydrangea, and the orchids. A little bit more skeleton leaves and a little dendrobium. Thank you. So this one comes to $391. Thank you. Look at these helpers. Aren't they great? Oh, goodness gracious. All right, so this one, I did not make a base for it. I just used a large Oasis bouquet holder for this. Very wild, right? This is something that we've kind of seen, I think, a little bit lately with the garden effect, but lots of layering, lots of depth happening with that beautiful jasmine vine that was also gifted from my friend, Helen Miller. It's great when we're in the back workroom and we know each other, and when you're like, well, I'm not really going to use this. Do you want it? And somebody's like, yes. It's like gold. So when she gave that to me, I thought, that's just perfect. But the anthurium, I love that there's an insane amount of depth with there. In between those two anthurium, there's probably a good 3 to 4 inches. And then add that another layer of depth with that jasmine vine. You're getting a bouquet that's a foot plus in depth, but it looks so rich and textural. And you just want to get in there and be like, what is in there? Oh my gosh, is that grape hyacinth in there? Oh my God. So it's very interesting to look at. This bouquet here is much more expensive. This one comes to $627. Yep. Thank you. I'm wondering if that was not the right bouquet. That was not the right bouquet. That was the end bouquet. The last one is $627. Sorry. Either way, that's okay. We're burning, as Jerome says. So this one's fun. I wanted to do a fan bouquet. So the kiwi vine is the armature that's built onto this. And the kiwi vine built by one of my lovely volunteers to create that great line, almost like a ginkgo biloba shape, right? And then the flowers themselves also in a spiral hand-tied bouquet all the way around. And she just learned a spiral this day. The day that she did this is the day she learned it. I know. And she got halfway into this and she was like, my hands won't hold it. And I was like, I'll help you. So we were double dutying it, but we got it done. I think she did a really wonderful job. And then we've got some really great little ringlets of some rustic wire just in the bottom section to give us some really wonderful repetition from what's happening with the kiwi vine on top. This one is the cheapest one. This one's $177. Thank you. And then this was from the hand-tie or the hands-on class that I did yesterday. Who here was there? Did we have fun? Yeah. We had so much fun. But they all made this. And I'm sure you guys saw them walking around with it. But I went ahead and I brought the base of how we made this for those of you that weren't in the class so you could see how it was put together. Again, this is 18-gauge wire, some fresh curly willow, which is very important. The dried curly willow will just snap, but the fresh curly willow will give us great motion. And then we use the cold adhesive to do our beautiful layering with fantastic colors and some wonderful, wonderful texture. Cool. That one is $295 for this one here. After I added the flowers to it, once I got back to the workroom, I said, we really need to add some more to it. Thank you, ladies. All right, so then this one I believe was the one we looked at before. I might have switched those two. But a kind of a crescent bouquet that comes down. I really love this. I think that this is a style, as well as the cascade, as well as the presentation, that have been around for quite a while, But I think that people are coming back to it because it's a little bit different, especially the cascade. People are really loving that cascade idea for new weddings right now. And I did stay with a little bit more of the traditional color palette with the whites and pinks, but then non-traditional combinations. So I added in that Noreen lily into here. And if you look way deep down inside, there's pieces of cut kalanchoe blooms that I used from the plants that came in that I requested. So I thought it was a really lovely take on a big, beautiful, traditional bouquet. Thanks. Yep, that's good. So that concludes my presentation, you guys. Thank you. Thank you. So please, feel free to come up and take some pictures. I don't know how they feel. Doug, how do we feel about people coming up on the stage? Do you?
I think we're probably going to move them off to the side.
And what about the arch?
We'll move that down.
Okay, perfect, yeah. Especially for the arch, I didn't cover the back. So you guys that are interested in the mechanics can really walk around to the back of it and see how it's all put together. But feel free, go into these, look at them, kind of take them apart a little bit. I'm great with it. If you have any questions, let me know. My name is Jenny Thomasson. Again, I want to thank you for my volunteers. And that's the QR code that you guys are going to take a picture of if you want to look at it on the website. Again, it's a page that I put on my website just for y'all. So you're going to be able to open up that website, and then it's just going to show you this entire presentation. So you can read through everything if you want, and if you have any questions, you can also reach out to me on social media. I'm jennyt.floristry on Instagram, or my website gives a link for my email as well. And then Great Lakes Floral Association, thank you, thank you, thank you. Teleflora, Mr. Charles Ingram, Kylie, Amber, and Isabel, my helpers. Kennecott, DWF of Flint, Mayesh, Roque Floral, Hyacinth House, and all of the other volunteers. It takes an army to put this together, you guys. An army. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank everyone that has given every ounce of their time. So thanks for having me.